Hello everybody! If you are new to me, my name is Joanne Rogers. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Central Alberta, Canada, and I've been designing with you in mind since 1999. So tonight we're going to be doing some watercolor. So I'm hoping that you are going to come and have some fun and learn how to do some watercolor. Sometimes I think that this is really difficult, and it isn't. But you do need one really important thing to watercolor, and that is your paper. Your paper is probably what the most important thing is. So I guess my question for you tonight is, have you ever tried to watercolor before? And if you have, what have your results been like? So we are going to be doing some watercolor. And the most important thing with watercolor, if you have not had watercolor paper and have not used watercolor paper when you have attempted to watercolor, as some of you say you have, then that could explain a lot of why you may not have had results that you loved. So this is the watercolor paper that we carry, Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and there's 10 in a package, and it's 5 by 7 inches. So it's this size that you see right here. And I cut it down and I use it for the card. So I've just cut some down tonight, and these are 3 3/4 by 5. And that size is just important for the type of card that I'm going to make tonight. So let me talk a little bit about the paper first. So the paper has a different surface. It has a bit of a bumpy surface. It's thicker, so it's like 140-pound paper. Our regular cardstock is about, the white is 65, and the other regular cardstock like black or garden green is 80 pound. This is 140 pounds, means that it's much thicker and it's much more resilient, and it also is very soft and very porous, but strong as well. So it's porous, meaning that when we add water to it, it's going to sink into the paper, but very slowly. And it's the sinking into the paper slowly that allows us to create some awesome watercolor. So we are going to be using this tonight, so I'm just going to put that aside. But what I need for you to do is, we're first of all going to pick out, we need 2 stamps, and I'd like to get, and it probably would be better to have a landscape orientation, so on the side, than a portrait, just for the card layout and design that I'm going to make. We're going to do the road, and we are going to do the bench. So I'll take those out. There's the bench. I'm just going to put them on top so that they're easily accessible. And then here's the road. And these are both cling stamps. They're not photopolymer. And when we get to, we're going to make some decisions on words too. And I pulled out one of my favorite sets for words. And it is the Season of Chic, which is in the annual catalog. It's not in the mini catalog right now because I think it has some of the most versatile sets going. So, but we're going to pick those later. First thing that we want to do is we want to create a background. Okay, I'm just pulling out an acrylic block, and I'm just putting a piece of white in behind so that you can see the color that I put down on top of it. We're going to be using the water painters, so you can use a paintbrush and a jar of water for yourself. I find that I knock over that little jar of water and then I'm not very happy, and so I'm using the water painters, and the feature that they have is that there's a reservoir built right into them where you put your water. And then all you do is there's a little push here, and that's how you get the water out of the reservoir down into the brush. Sort of like our Wink of Stella, the glimmer pen. So there are 3 different brushes. There's the flat one, like I just showed you there, and then there's a small brush tip and a large brush tip. Okay, we're going to use the large, and we're going to use the flat one, although I might pull in this other one too. And this one is just for more detailed work, and this one is, tonight we're not doing detailed work. Watercolor is soft and flowy, sort of tranquil, so we're going to try and create that look on our cards. So we're going to do a background, and you can tape your paper down if you want. We're not going to saturate it completely with water though, so I'm not too worried about it curling up or not lying fairly flat. So the first technique that we're going to do is a super simple one, and I think I'm going to do it and use it for the in the country here. And so I'm going to do a little bit of a green background, I think, here for the trees. And so I just pulled in a couple of my green markers. And so there's so many different ways that you can watercolor. And I actually have a class for card makers called Watercolor Backgrounds for Card Makers. And let me just grab you the link here. And so if you go to this link here, you can go and take a read and take a look at what's included in that watercolor class. And it's different items than what we're going to be doing tonight. So what we're going to be doing is we're using our Stampin' Write markers, and we're going to be using the brush tip. There's a thick and a thin line. We're using the brush tip, which is the thick line. And all I'm doing is I'm just going to scribble a little bit of ink onto my acrylic block. So I'm just going to separate them a little bit there so that they are fairly far apart. And maybe I will actually put some gray in there too. So this is basic gray as well. So all you're doing is creating a little palette for yourself. Now we're going to take one other thing that's really important when you're watercoloring is a piece of paper towel. You always want to have that close by. So we are going to I'm going to squeeze this until I see the water come out, and I can actually do it right over top of here, until I see the water come out and I can see it really dripping on the brush there. So I'm going to create just a wash of water rather, not color. And it's not a huge amount of water, and if I feel I have too much, I can always take it off, but you can see that it's quite shiny. Okay, it will dry, especially here in Alberta, fairly quickly. So now I'm going to take my large brush. All I want to do is put clear water down. I'm going to take my large brush, create a little puddle of water there, and then I'm going to pull in some of that green, pick up some water, and all I'm going to do is sort of touch it in and just use my brush on its side, and I'm just going to create a really soft, okay, and I'm not pressing hardly at all here. I'm just letting the water sort of take the color of ink. And soft background, there's not going to be a lot of color here. And so I've got a little bit darker color there. And because I have enough water, when I move it around, my color is not staying right there where I put it down. It's being moved around. Okay, so we're just going to create that. Try not to go right out to the edge. And where's my paper towel? Right here. You can scrunch up your paper towel and then just dab on some of those really wet spots. Okay, so when you do that around the edges, it will create a little softer edge than what you might have if you just let it dry. So that's all I'm doing to this one. That's a watercolor background. So when we stamp over top of it, then that's when sort of the magic is going to happen. So the magic happened right there when you see that we just created a very soft color. So I'm going to lay this one aside. You can heat this up with a heat tool. I actually don't do that very often. I prefer to let it air dry, and so we're actually not going to be using this background unless it air dries a little bit more. So you can see that it has a little bit of a curl in it. That will flatten out as it dries. So I'm going to set that aside. Now for our second one, we are going to stamp with the In the Country, and we're going to use the Scenic Garden. So the second that's one technique. That's super easy, right? So what color will you start with first when you're going to be creating your card? And I've got samples to show you at the end with both of these techniques. So now we're going to use our Stamparatus. I'm going to pull that in, and I'm going to put my stamp on top, and I'm going to take another piece of my Fluid 100 watercolor paper. I like to always put mine sort of 1 inch down and 1 inch across. It's a habit I've gotten into, and that's where I tend to put my stuff. And then I'm going to put down my bench right about here. I do want to leave a little bit of room for some words, whatever words we happen to pick. I think will probably fit in there, and I'll pick that up. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this underneath here. I could use my black one as well, but I'm going to use Versamark, and I'm going to emboss this. And I'm going to use white. So I'm going to use white embossing powder for this. And I really like how the white shows up. Now this is not a basic, this is not a bright white, this paper. It has a real ivory tinge to it. I should have opened that up before. So now I'm just going to ink up with my Versamark and give it a really good pressing there. And I'm going to stamp it, and I have a tissue here, and the tissue just allows my hand to run a little bit more smooth over top of the Stamparatus. I'm going to ink it again because watercolor paper, because of that bumpy surface, we just want to make sure it's well inked, which is why I'm also using the Stamparatus, so that I can ink it and it will go in the exact same spot. Okay, so twice should be good. Take that out of there. I'm going to take that guy out of there too. And we're done with our Stamparatus for now. We're going to need it again when we do our words. So I'm going to put just white, and I know you can't see anything. I'm going to put white embossing powder on top. Okay, and then we're going to heat it up. So I'm just going to use my heat tool for that, which is attached to my little holder for it. And we'll heat it up. So you can see, you can hardly see it on there, but it is there and it's shiny. So I'm going to use 2 colors of gray. And now you don't need to have white underneath this. When you use your acrylic block, you just go ahead, and I just want you to be able to see the colors. So I'm thinking that you can probably see there, maybe you can't see that second color, but it's quite a bit lighter. So I'm going to use my large again. Now before I do anything, I want to make sure that I have gotten rid, see all that green that's in there, that's no longer in the brush. So all you do is squeeze it until it comes clear, and it's fairly clear now. Okay, so for this guy, I've got just a little puddle of water again, but I'm going to go, and I know it's going to be hard for you to see, I'm going to go right over top of my bench. Okay, so again, this is not precise, but this one allows you to be a watercolor artist, and you don't need to know really anything about watercolor. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of color, and it is gray. Okay, I'm going to put this down just so that I can see a little bit better here. So the water is going to take the color. So it's just like coloring. Now the important thing is that we want puddles of water. Okay, so you don't have to worry about keeping in the lines at all. It's not like, remember when you had to do the maps at school? They probably don't even have to do that now. I'm showing my age. But we had to do maps, and we had to stay within the lines and everything. No, you don't need to do that for here. So once you've done a light wash, you can go in with some darker. So you can see that I'm not really putting too much thought here. All I'm doing is getting the gray down. Notice I'm using the brush on its side. I'm not going like this because you have less chance of applying a really dark bit of color if you go on the side. So we can do the same thing here as we did with the last one, where we're going to go outside a little bit and then just pick up some of that water so that we have a soft image. Okay, so we've got our, just making a little bit darker here. We've got our bench, and we can always go back in and add more color. Do you like the color? The gray, I think, looks quite nice, actually. Okay, can you see that? And you can see how it's sort of already come to life just a little bit with the white on there. Now it's still shiny because it's still wet. So we're going to just let that dry just a little bit. Now we need to pick some flower colors. And I'm just going to clean my brush off. And I'm just going to put my green up here. I've got some Evening Evergreen, and this is actually Mint Macaron here. So we got purple and we have yellow, and I've got 2 purples here. first of all going to go in and I'm going to do the grass. Okay, so I can pick up some of this and I'm just going to do the bottom here. And you can see again, I'm just going on the side. Now there's a tiny bit of green in there right now, but now I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to tap right into that water. Okay, and the water is going to carry it. The water is going to carry the color. Going to go up into a little bit. Again, I'm using the brush on its side. I don't want harsh lines, so I'm going to go in with my, what's that? Paper towel. Now you can get, so this is dried fairly quickly down here because I didn't have a lot of water. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more water and I'm going to go right in over top of that. And I'm just going to go on the side again, go right over top, and I'm going to soften that line up just a little bit more. Okay, so that's the one thing that you can do with watercolor paper that you cannot do with other paper. You can go in and do this a few times. Now don't scrub at it, just lightly go in. Okay, so that's going to create some of our green, and we need to get some purple in here. So wherever you put your color, it has to sort of be in an area that doesn't have any other color. And this is Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to do the lighter of those first, which is my yellow. Clean off your brush, get rid of any of the green that's in there. That's one nice thing about having an aqua painter or a water painter. Go right over top, and I'm leaving a little bit of water right over top of that. Go in with my yellow, and it's just going to, yellow is quite light. And just give yourself some yellow, and I'm going to go in and do the purple afterwards. I'm going to need to give myself a little bit more color too. Okay, so there's my yellow, but I'm not done yet because I need to go over to this side and also put in some water. I feel like I'm going out of water here. So what I often do is I put it right into my palm like that too. Need some more yellow. It seems to go quickly. So again, just a little bit of yellow. I put more water on this side, so it's going to go faster. Okay. So you can see that I'm just sort of dabbing. I'm not going in and trying to color. I'm not trying to color in those little lines at all. The thing, you want to make sure you clean off your brush. So now I'm going to go in and do some purple in here. I'm not looking at where I'm putting it either. I'm just putting it in anywhere. And it's just going to give a little bit. And so I have more water over here, so it's probably going to move a little bit more. And that's okay. Right? This is just the suggestion of color here. So again, yeah, I'm not really, I don't really care which way I'm going here. Just so that I can get some of that purple in there. Okay, so purple and yellow mixed together, and I'm going to go back in now and put a little bit of green up there because there's leaves up there too. And take a little bit of green, put that in. So this isn't precise, you can see that. I'm doing all kinds of different things. I'm tapping in all over the place. I'm not looking at really trying to get anything. I'm using the image itself to suggest where I'm going to put my color. Okay, how's that looking so far? Do you like? So it's soft. Okay, it's not got a lot of color. It's just very, very light. Needs to dry a little bit over here, and once it dries we can go in and look at things. So the thing that right now that I want to change is, can you see where these harsh lines are here? And normally I sort of like those, but I'm going to just soften those up a little bit more to get rid of them because I don't want those ones in there. I just want soft, soft. Okay, and so I can still do that because I have a wet paintbrush and I have watercolor paper. A little bit more here. So I'm going a bit darker. So, think you can do this? I know you can do this. I know that everybody who is watching here right now has the capability, the ability, and the talent to be able to do this, because all I'm doing is jabbing stuff around, right? Okay, so I think we're going to leave that guy and let it dry. We're going to look at our other one and see if it's dry yet, and if it's not, we'll use a background that I already have. I think that's very pretty. I love the color choices there. So the other one that I did, here it is. So you can see that it has a little bit of color in it, very, very soft, but also it's not flat, and it's cool to the touch. When it's cool to the touch, it means that it's not dry yet. So I am going to dry this with my heat tool. So it's puffing up just a little bit. So it's going to dry. As it dries, it's going to dry flat. You can do both sides of it. And if it doesn't dry flat, put it between a couple books and it will flatten out. It really will. Okay, so let's see. How am I doing there? Not bad. Okay, so we will use this one because we are going to put it into the Stamparatus. So let me grab it here. And let me grab another one of these guys. Okay, now we're going to need some words, but first of all, we're going to stamp right over top of this one. So this is it's dry, but it's not super, super dry. We are going to stamp right over top of it. I'll put this maybe off, maybe off to the side just a little. Yeah, no, I sort of like it in the middle. Okay, we're going to pick that up. And I think we're going to stamp with basic gray. So I'm going to choose here basic gray. So we're just going to ink it up, put that underneath. So I'm just putting this underneath so that I create a flat surface all the way across for my stamp to take my ink. It's a little less annoying when it's not moving up and down. So stamp right over top. I need my Kleenex again. And you don't have to press super, super hard. I think some of us, we tend to be a little heavy-handed with our stamps. You don't have to be. Especially with the Stamparatus, because you can go as many times as you want, you can leave off that heaviness. Just let it, if you have to ink it 3 times, so that's okay. This actually, I think I'm almost good. I'm going to do it one more time. Okay. Same thing, exactly the same thing. Thinking of you. We pull that out. We find it here. There it is. I love the photopolymer, and photopolymer is especially great when we are stamping over top, because I don't need to really plan for it. What am I trying to say? I don't really need to think too much about it being straight. I think that looks to me like it is fairly straight, and I can tell by my lines right here, just going to get my head in there a little bit, that it looks like these letters are really the same distance away from that line. So move that one up, and I think that we're going to go with green ink, and I didn't pull one out, but we used Evening Evergreen. So I am going to grab that. There we go. Now I could use my markers for this. I'm just going to hold this there. Thinking of you. Again, not too hard. See? So here's an example of the bumpiness. So it hasn't taken the ink very well. So always, always when you are stamping on your watercolor paper, use your Stamparatus. It is always going to give you great results. Okay, so and I think I can do even one more time. So just do it as many times as you need to get the look that you are going for. You don't have to press harder each time. You just need to give it a nice inking each time. So there we go. Got that. Thinking of you. And I'm going to take this and we're going to turn it into a card while we're still waiting for that one to dry. So we're going to score it at 5.5. So you're going to score it. Make sure it's a scoring and not the cutting blade. 5.5 and 2 3/4, which is exactly half of 5.5. So this is always one of my go-to fun fold cards, just because they are so easy to make. Whoops, they fly around a little bit, and you can make it quickly. You don't have to go and look up the measurements for it, because we pretty much always know that we have, this is a 4 1/4 by 11-inch card scored at 5 1/2 and 2 3/4. So now what we're going to do is pull in a basic piece of basic gray. So I have basic gray here, which is going to go with the color here. Basic gray, so I can put that one down using my seal. And we'll put that right in the middle, and this is the inside of the card, but we're going to see it from the outside. And then we're going to put a piece of white that is 3 3/4. I have one here. 3 3/4 by 5, which is the same size. Oh, is it? Should be. That one looks smaller. Same size as our piece of paper. I'm going to have to measure that and make sure I've got the right size paper, because what we want to see is some of that basic gray in behind there, because it's going to act like a little mat and frame it. So this is going to go in the middle. Now let me just measure this, see if I did cut it right, and if not, I have to cut it down. So that's 5 1/4, so I did cut this a little bit too long. So I'm going to take it off of this end, I think. So this is fixing things on the fly. We want this to be 5, not 5 1/4. So now we do want that cutting one. So just cut off that little strip. And we're going to glue this one down, but I want to put one other piece on here. I'm going to use a piece of the textured shimmer paper, and this is just the white, and I thought that it would pop this just a little bit more. The other color I could use is green. Where's my green? I had a green one. I don't have it. There it is. I think the green is a pretty nice color. So both sides of this are exactly the same. So it's not like you're wasting a side. It is textured. It has a very slight, see a little ribbing in it, I guess we can call it. Oh, stuck. Now this is going to go so that I have the same amount of space here, here, and here for the same amount of succulent sage showing. Soft succulent. Holy moly, I've lost all my names. Now to put down your watercolor paper, I would use something strong. So I'm going to use liquid glue in this case, and we want to make sure that we are only going to be putting our liquid glue over here. So I can see where the liquid glue wants to go, because this is the same size as this. So I'm just going to put my liquid glue here, and then I'm going to come out here. Okay, I'm going to create a little rectangle of glue, and then I'm going to hold this down, put this on, and then I'm going to line it up so that it covers up that white underneath. Okay, so that we don't even see it. So you might need to just play with that a tiny little bit. We want to see the gray underneath, and that's going to be a frame for our watercolor. There we go. That's good. I see a little bit of glue up there. So I'm just going to lay that down. So that is our card. Now we could go in there and add a little bit more green, but we're going for soft here. Okay, we are going for really, really soft. So let me show you the one that I have made. Okay, so I did some different things here. I used black on top of a little bit darker green, and my watercolor isn't going left to right. It actually was going top to bottom. This was a bigger piece that I cut down, so it probably went right off the edge. But aside from that, it is the same card. And I used black because I used black ink. Here we've got gray. So this is a little softer card, but it's the exact same card, so that when you open it up, you've got your reverse fold. This one is dry already because there wasn't nearly as much water on there. So I'm going to put it into the same place. That's just my habit to go into that corner there. We are going to lay down our "You Are Amazing Beyond Measure." I'm going to try and get that straight. I'm not sure that it is completely straight. I'm going to pull this in and look again at where my lines are. It looks not too bad. Okay, and I think we might go with green again. Do you think? Green, pull this out, or maybe we should go with purple. Maybe we should go with the purple we used, which was Highland Heather. Before I put that down, I'm just going to take some of that purple off of there. I should have my little spots. So let's put that down, grab my Kleenex. You'll have to get the paper first. Yes, the paper is necessary, and I'm hoping that's straight. There are less expensive papers that you can try. They're going to give you not as fabulous results, but if you're worried at all about just trying and seeing whether it's for you, just go and pick up a pad of watercolor paper. Make sure that it's a heavy enough pound. So again, it's 140 pounds, and you're going to be rewarded with beautiful backgrounds. You really are. I like that purple on there. Didn't even give you guys a chance at that one, did I? Okay, so there's our purple. Clean this off. Highland Heather it is. Okay, and that's so pretty all by itself already. I like it, I like it. So 5.5 scored. You guys are going to know these measurements really well. 2 3/4. Let's get our yellow guy out of there. Fold this over. Fold it back. And this is going to go on here then. This is going to go on the inside. I'll get another piece of white and that's going to go on there. How's that? Very, very pretty card. You guys did a great job on this one. I love it. Okay, so we need our seal, which I've lost. Is it in front of me? Anybody? I've lost it somewhere here, so we're going to use glue instead. That doesn't happen to you, does it? Where you totally lose things that you're scrapbooking or card making with? Never. Okay, there's that. We're going to put on our white as well. And this white just has a little tiny bit of shimmer. This is in the mini, so it's in the spring mini. Again, I'm looking for the same amount of distance, side, top, and bottom. And then I'm going to put this right over top. So I'm going to go in again. I'm going to use the white as my, what's the word I want? Guide, my guideline. I'm going to come in, make sure I have this right side up, not upside down, and then I'm going to cover up the white, and I have the same amount of gray. There we go. That is a beautiful card. So I'm going to show you 2 other samples. So this was the first sample that I had made. So this is using the other one. So this one is not a reverse fold card. So this reminds me sort of Tuscany. So there's that one, and then I did a different one too. I wanted to show you what black embossing looks like. So with my black embossing, I'm glad we went for different words. I did go for pinks and purples instead of yellows and purples, so it gives you just a much more, let me put them together, a much more dramatic look. And I added in just a little bit of the pink glimmer paper just to pull the pinks out a little bit. I have to pull those up so that you get different looks. The white one is so soft and the black is much more bold, but they're still watercolor. Okay, and on this one I just added a little bit of baker's twine just to give it a little bit of something because I felt like it was a little too heavy on that side. Okay, so there's your cards. Let me know which one there you like the best. Let's pull this guy over. So there's your 2 cards. So totally different because one you are coloring the image with watercolor, and this one you're creating a watercolor background. So that is it for watercolor. If you're on the replay, leave me a comment. Let me know when and if you're going to give this a try, because I know you can do it. And also maybe let me know what stamp set you think you're going to use to do this with. So I use celebration ones here tonight, but anything that's an open line would work really, really well. Okay, thanks very much for joining me, everybody. Remember, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about watercolor, I give you different techniques in the class. Here is the link again, and I will put that into the top of the video so that you can just click on it and go take a look. All right, thanks. See you again. Have fun. Bye-bye.